Ladies and gentlemen, the Philadelphia 76ers may officially be back. Not only has Joel Embiid returned to the floor and showed the closest flash to his MVP self, but we have a positive update regarding the status of his knee and how it responded to those increased minutes. I want to break down exactly what Nick Nurse said, speaking to reporters at Sixers practice, and why I think this is so important for Joel Embiid moving forward. So to dive right into it, we have Nick Nurse saying that Joel Embiid went through a full practice today, and his body has responded well since playing 33 minutes on Sunday versus Chicago. And to add to this a little farther, we do have shout out to Adam Aronson of the Philly Voice here, who says, Nick Nurse says Joel Embiid was a full participant in today's practice, quote, start to finish. Now, to me, this is an even bigger story than what we saw on Sunday. Yes, it was great to see Joel Embiid moving around the court, seeing that mobility in a way that we had not through those first 4 games on the floor. Still obviously repping the brace and still has some things to work on, but 31 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, looked like the version of Joel Embiid that we know and hoped, and it was really reassuring to see that he is still in here, but to me, even more reassuring to see that he is bouncing back, that this was not a 1 step forward, 2 steps back type of situation. The expectation is Joel Embiid will be back on the floor when this team takes it on Friday against the Indiana Pacers. Now, we have not seen the best version of Joel Embiid just yet. There are no doubt about that. Just so far this year, averaging 22.0 points per game, 8.4 rebounds, 3.6 assists, shooting just 40.7% from the field and 13% from 3. That is brutal numbers there and far below the expectation that we have for the sky-high standard that Joel Embiid has set for himself there. But what this is a sign that we're moving in the right direction and hopefully a return to normalcy for Joel. Now, I've mentioned this a couple times already, but we did see Embiid kind of speak on things, opening up, saying exactly what was going on with the knee, saying that he's dealing with some knee issues that have been, quote, extremely depressing, saying, quote, there's no injury, just between the swelling. We've got to get it figured out. I've been saying it for the last few months. It's been extremely depressing here. So to me, this is an incredibly positive sign that this was not something that kept him out of practice. He was able to be in the normal routine, and we did get a little sneak peek at it that I do want to play. Him playing one-on-ones with Andre Drummond at first, both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey get in the mix as well, and these are the things that I want to see. This is normal basketball player stuff. This is not Joel Embiid being handled with kid gloves. This is him building some camaraderie with his teammates and getting better in the process here. This is how things should be done. It is nice to see this kind of being built, and we joke about the chemistry and how important it is for these guys to play together. I do kind of think that these level of opportunities are almost more important than the game reps, that these guys have to figure out a little bit of communication of what are your go-to moves, what is it you're looking for on the floor, and obviously a lot more of that will be played out as there is a larger sample size of experience of them playing together. Now, Nick Nurse did mention a little bit of that as well. To highlight what he said regarding the lineups, did want to highlight this quote here. I want to start with the bottom portion of this from, once again, Adam Aronson of the Philly Voice here, that says Nick Nurse says it's conceivable that he adjusts starting lineups from game to game based on matchups, but it's more likely that he'd keep the same starting lineup but open the second half with a different unit if the matchup calls for it. That is what he did in Chicago on Sunday. And Adam kind of giving his own thoughts on it, saying, my read on Nick Nurse lineup comments at practice today, he wants to move forward with a Maxey, Oubre Jr., George, Yabusele, and Embiid starting 5 when fully healthy, but won't be afraid to quickly pivot to a smaller lineup with McCain replacing Yabu should the matchup call for it. Now, I think Jared McCain has done everything humanly possible to earn his spot in the starting lineup here, and to kind of reflect on what specifically he's producing here. That he's averaged 15.8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, shot 46.3% from the field, 38.2% from downtown there. McCain has been everything these Sixers could have hoped for and more, and I do think that he's still a significant part of this team. But when kind of building out the ideal lineup, I do think it's worth playing around with at this point in time. Again, I do have sympathy because, once again, I don't know what more he could have done to really lock up that starting spot here. And again, he's been everything the team could have hoped for and more. But we thought back to coming into the season. Let's flash back. Let's forget about the injuries, the disaster that has been the start of the year. What was the biggest concern? It was rebounding, and it was the power forward spot. Gershon Yabusele, to his credit, has answered all those questions. He also has been everything the Sixers team could hope for and more. And I do see a world where, when you think back to the Joel Embiid era, there has not been that true power forward to surround him with. Yabusele is the closest thing that we've seen. And frankly, he's only gotten better as the games have gone on. I've been incredibly impressed with him as just an overall basketball player. This is not just a one-trick pony who's there to knock down threes and play a little bit of defense, get some rebounds. He's a good playmaker. He's got really good basketball IQ. He takes charges. He's gritty defensively. And he's a guy who, can scale up or down depending on what's necessary. I think he's looked more and more confident and impressive as a shooter. Felt like at the beginning of the year, it was kind of like he would get a shot at the three-pointer and be like, Am I open? Okay, I'll take it. Now he is seeking out his own shot and knocking him down at a high rate there. So when kind of looking at the depth chart of this Sixers team, it makes sense to me to play around with this. I don't think Kelly Oubre Jr. should be looked at as a lock to be in the starting lineup. I also think it is worth experimenting with. Is there a world where Jared McCain overtakes Oubre, and then you're still leaning on that size with Paul George, with Yabusele, with Embiid? These are conversations that I do want to have tinkered with, and the only reason that it can now happen is because you do have this team fully together and have a chance to build some chemistry, experiment with some things, figure out. I also think Caleb Martin, while he's kind of been tossed to the side for the time being, is a guy that will be a key part of this Sixers team when everything is said and done. Nick Nurse also spoke kind of talking about how injured that he has been, how banged up, and how he's not worried. I do think in the long run, I'm not going to dispute that Caleb Martin has underperformed by a pretty massive extent thus far, but I also think he's been thrown into a really difficult situation. That Caleb Martin was brought here to be a complementary role player. What has been asked of him is he's essentially been running the offense for stretches, which has never been his game. And even while he has been capable of scaling up offensively during the heat in different stretches there, it hasn't been exactly the way the Sixers have asked him to do it. I'm talking him as an on-ball creator, him trying to get into his dribble moves. That's just not Caleb Martin, man. And I do think he deserves some credit for fighting through the injuries the way that he has. I think he's been very good defensively. I'm not giving up on Caleb Martin is my point here. And I do think that starting roster spot will be revisited in due time here. Now, when speaking about this Sixers team, as much as I can be complimentary of us moving forward, we cannot escape the fact that they have dug quite a hole for themselves. That at this point in time, they have climbed to 12th in the Eastern Conference. They're now 7-15 on the year. They have 3 direct winnable games coming up. That's starting with the Indiana Pacers on Friday, who've been a really tough watch lately. They enter with a 10-15 record there, so just a couple spots above them in the 9 seed. I do want to note these Sixers just a game and a half out of the play-in tournament currently, which is a very attainable goal, and I still think there is a lot of season left that they can make a push for a top 6 seed. The work has to be done game by game at this point. But after the Pacers, they will have a back-to-back against the Charlotte Hornets. If we're talking about this team moving to 10-15 here, all of a sudden they're in that play-in mix. And again, there's over 60 games left at this point in time. A lot of basketball to be played, but it only matters if Joel Embiid can continue to maintain healthy. That is going to be the true X factor for this Sixers team. Is this just a positive part of the roller coaster ride that we've already seen so far this season, or are we truly inching towards normalcy? I have the most hope that that could possibly be the case as I have at any other point this season, but we do know the story that we still have not had those questions answered for what exactly was Joel Embiid dealing with. I understand he's acknowledging that there is not a true injury here, that this is just kind of the swelling, the management, and everything that goes along with it, but I will lean on my same premise that I've had from start to finish this season, that all that could have been cleared up, and the outlook would have been much different if you were just upfront about that at the beginning. To me, I think the lack of messaging and the lack of transparency from the Sixers team has really cut into the overall vibe of this team and more from the public perception of the belief in him. If they had said, Joel Embiid's knee has swollen up, we don't know what the deal is, he's going to miss the next 9 games, things would have been a little different right now. Instead, we live with the game-by-game updates, having no clue what's going on, but thankfully, that seems to be in the rear view, at least for the short term here. So, obviously, we're going to have to continue updating Joel Embiid's knee injury as the season goes on, but this is the most positive stretch or most positive indications that we have moving forward here. The Sixers cannot afford to lose any more of those kind of freebie games, and I know there's no freebie games in the NBA as the Pacers are still going to bring it, the Hornets are still going to bring it. Even a team like the Washington Wizards is going to give you their best punch on a night-by-night basis. But this is now the time for this organization to begin climbing up these standings, and it has to happen in the short term here. So we will see how things shake out from here. But shout out to Joel Embiid for officially being back on the floor, and I expect to see him Friday. Hopefully that knee keeps responding, and we can get a better look at this guy who can so easily be the most dominant player on the floor whenever he settles in and looks like it there. So hopefully that is the case moving forward, and we get to see more of Joel Embiid as we kind of tinker with this lineup and see what this Sixers team is truly assembled to be. But for the time being, we will rest easy and be happy that that is the case. So shout out to you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we have turned a corner, Sixers Nation, that this is the start of good things, and I'm not retracting all these statements after a bad Joel Embiid fall on Friday. But for now, let's enjoy the high moments. We've been through plenty of bad ones. So shout out to you guys for tuning into this video. Appreciate each and every one of you guys as always. If you have not already, please smash that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. Drop any comments that you have below and let us rejoice in the health of Joel Embiid. Talk to you next time. Peace.